You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during questioning. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. You understand your rights? Warning. Each episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, will contain descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature and are for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off the internet or from some television show. These facts I'm retelling were presented to me by the victims of the crime or the perpetrators who committed the crimes. My descriptions of the crime scenes are what I saw with my own two eyes. If you are going to get offended, turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And again, joining me today is my co-host, Jim, the Hitman Rathmann. Morning, Jim.
Good morning, Woody. Good morning, everyone.
All right. Y'all, so we're going to do this special episode, Hotline, if you will, and it's Jim's first Hotline. And we haven't done one in a couple months. So we like to do it every once in a while to give our fans the chance to ask or say anything they want, and we'll answer your questions to the best of our ability. I want you to know that today's episode is totally, as all of them are, totally unscripted. Jim doesn't even know what the questions are. I haven't read them to him yet. But today's episode is going to be raw and unedited. I'm out of town. I got back in country last Thursday, and we were able to get out the episode on Friday for you without the editing on my end. And of course, Jim, you sounded great. And then, it's going to be the same way today because I'm out of town again. I left Saturday and I've been gone all week, and my adorable wife won't have time to fix all my lip smacks and ums and deep breaths. So fans, just deal with me, if you will, please. So before we get started though, Jim, I want to tell them about, another podcast called True CrimeCast, and CrimeCast is one word, y'all, and it's hosted by John and Jamie. And look, it's a really well done show. They play off well of each other. The episodes are researched well, and they're a friend of Real Life, Real Crime. Y'all go listen to their last episode on the Oklahoma City bomber, and they give us a really, really great review and promotion. And so we're going to return the favor now. Let me introduce you to True CrimeCast with John and Jamie.
Hey, I'm John.
I'm Jamie.
And this is True CrimeCast.
Sure, we cover the big names and cases everybody wants to hear,
but we specialize in the small town, unknown cases you've never heard of.
If you listen into True CrimeCast, you'll hear us give the details of each case and our analysis of whether or not justice is served.
You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast.
Y'all should go ahead and hit the subscribe button and join in on the conversation.
This is True CrimeCast.
All right, everybody, that was John and Jamie with True CrimeCast. Go give them a listen, like, subscribe to them, and check out their social media. They have actually joined our private crew page, and so they're on there. Say hi to them. And when you go to their social media, let them know that Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast sent you. So, all right, Hitman, let's get started. We have questions from numerous fans, and I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to save the most disturbing question for last, or we're going to save the most disturbing question for last, and we'll go through all the rest of them, etc. But I'll tell you, I'll give you a preface on it, Jim. I had several requests, questions about sexual fetishes, etc. And when I get to that question, you think about it, I already have one in my mind that I know that you know about. Probably every cop that ever went to LSU knows about. And I think I'm going to, tell that one. But so y'all, at the end of the Hotline episode, that's where the bad question would be. And I'll give you a warning again to turn this shit off if you're going to get offended. And stay tuned at the end of the Hotline episode. And I'm going to tell you about a special little boy named Gage. And, Gage is just a beautiful young spirit, and he has autism, and we're going to do a promotion for his mama for his GoFundMe page to help offset some of the expenses of the program that he's in, etc. And I'm also going to be talking about my release of my first audiobook, which I did last week. So y'all stay tuned at the end of the episode for that. All right, Jim. We have, let's see, where do we want to start? Make something easy. All right.
I can tell you that the end of this episode is going to be interesting because I have a bunch that popped into my head.
I know. I think maybe at the end of every Hotline episode, we can do one sexual fetish. I mean, the people that were hitting me up, Jim, were messaging me, and I'm like, y'all really don't want to go there. And they were like, yes, we do. Try us out. Blah, blah, blah. It's okay. I mean, and one of them was patron, and I promised the patron members their questions would be answered regardless. So we'll give it to them. But
absolutely. They want the door open. We'll walk through it.
Yeah. I just don't think it's like that movie, right, with Jack Nicholson. And you can't handle the truth. But, first question, Jim. Chad Hayes asks, who is the worst of the worst Murder Bayou level bad guys you ever met? I can tell you right now, on the sexual side, well, there's so many of them, but on the sexual side, for me, without a doubt, David Double Clutch Constance, who raped those kids for 20 years. I mean, you just don't get any more than that. And, Murder Bayou, David Constance.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. He's a special kind of Murder Bayou that needs to, I mean, I could go off on what I truly feel about it. But I'm with you on that. He's just a disgusting human being.
Yeah, just unbelievable. And then getting his wife involved. Actually, his wife, Christina, was one of his victims when she was a girl, and he groomed her. And you know what, Jim, I still catch shit to this day for telling that story. And I wasn't going to say anything about it, but we got another 1-star review because of the Constance episode. And I've gotten a couple of those since we started the podcast. And some lady went off saying that I was worse than child pornography or something like that. I'm like, motherfucker, didn't you say, hear the warning, heed my warning? And the other thing is, y'all, I mean, I guess some people are just used to regular true crime shows where they get the stuff off the internet, etc. I tell you in the warning that these facts are what were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the bad guys who committed the crimes against the victim. And fuck, I'm not lying to you. I mean, I'm not making this up, and Jim's not making it up. These are the direct words these people told. And believe me, we don't put in half of what we could put in. So it's not about sensationalism, but David Double Clutch Constance is a bad piece of shit, Murder Bayou. And hey, I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it again. I know somebody up there at Angola's got a cell phone and that as contraband, and they're listening to real life, real crime. I'm talking about inmates. They sneak in cell phones now. And so y'all don't let David Double Clutch Constance fool you. He is the king of all pedophiles, and maybe, this will give him a little inmate love. So anyway.
Without a doubt. And Woody, if I could touch on one thing, because I think I know what you're talking about in regards to the complaint about the child pornography and the reasons why he should be giving ideas out for pedophiles and whatnot. Look, at the end of the day, you can turn on the news, and if you're a robber, you're going to get new ideas. If you're a kidnapper, you're going to get new ideas. So it's being aware and being known what to look for, more so than giving people ideas of what can go on. We live in a world that can be very sick and twisted, and there's a lot of bad people out there. So knowing how to protect yourself and protect your family is first and foremost. These criminals will sit there and think of it.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. But then, the main thing is, I think those people that have left those, and then I don't normally talk about reviews like that because it just doesn't bother me one way or another. But first of all, I don't think that they listen to the whole episode. Otherwise, they would know we put them away for 4 life sentences. And I think they probably hear the first few minutes and get offended and blow up. And that's fine. It takes all kinds to make the world go around. But again, y'all, we've got some bad cases to talk about in the future. And we would never sensationalize the bad stuff, but we've got to tell the base facts of it. If not, what's the point of doing the podcast? I mean, this is real life, real crime. This is not Google special, about Ted Bundy again that, 14,000 other people have done. So, but anyway, Jim, what about murderers?
One that comes to mind for me that I think there's probably more bodies out there than what we know of is trust no one.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree, especially since he worked all over the world, right? As a shipbuilder. Yeah, that dude was throwing it off. Yeah.
What brings it up for me about that one, Woody, is I remember when that was all going on and the investigation into it, and just he couldn't remember what body was where. If you think about that for a minute, you're like, what?
I know. When I asked him, when I took that picture back in and showed him, I said, "Who is this?" He said, "Oh yeah, I killed him too, and wasn't the victim." And I said, "Exactly how many people have you killed?" And he said, "I really don't know." But
I can only imagine what would pop up and where.
Yeah.
That guy was bad.
Yeah,
one of the worst ones.
He was definitely bad. I'm going to go with, at this point, until we cover other people, well, shit, Jared Bordelon, of course, he's bad, but he got his due justice, right, being executed. But Mark Lewis, that killed Caitlin Adele, and of course Janet Benoit, and attacked at least one other girl. And I think he's got more bodies on him, but that dude was cold. No emotion, just bad news. So, but yeah, that was.
I agree. Mark Lewis, that was a bad one. I still get teary eyed when I think of little Caitlin Adele. That one just.
That's just a tough deal, man. That was just a horrible case. But the good, if there can be any good out of it, was I've never seen a community and people from across the world rally behind the family in the search and the investigation like that. That was amazing. The people that came out to volunteer, and just, it was a great show of community support and support for Caitlin's mom. But other than that, I wish it hadn't happened, certainly. But anyway, all right, Jim, let's do another question. Brittany Gauche, and I know how to say that because I'm from South Louisiana. It's spelled Gauthier. Brittany wants to know, she said, "Hey, Woody, I've had a question since the day you started the podcast. I was wondering if you ever worked under my grandpa, Frank Steele. He was a night shift supervisor of the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office for several years." Now, Brittany, let me tell you this. Your grandfather was somewhat of a legend in the uniform patrol ranks, because I can tell you from the day I started, I would hear about Frank Steele. So from what I heard, he was a true original good cop, right? And he didn't take any shit off anybody. And, he ran a really good tight ship. No, I did not. I think I got there right after, he was gone. And Jim, I know that would have been before your time. But I think he was compared to was like Mike Irwin's shift at night or John Laudermilk's shift at night. And so they ran and they gunned and they caught lots of bad guys. But so Brittany, no, not directly, but certainly he was a legend. So, okay. So let's go to, Lonnie J. And Jim, Lonnie J joined probably like 2 weeks ago or something, but he's been, very active in, on the page, et cetera. But he has a couple questions, and he says, "Woody and Jim, what made you go into the field of criminal justice? Did you ever get into trouble with the law when you were younger? And if so, is that a factor of why you went into it? Thanks." And I'll let you go first.
You want me to go first? Okay. That's a great question. I did not get in any trouble with the law when I was younger. I did my typical teenager stupid stuff. Nothing that was really law breaking or anything like that. I did grow up more on the lower income side of things, if you will. I didn't have a whole lot. I had a wonderful father who did everything in the world for my brother and I, and just raised us the right way. And for me, I got into law enforcement. I just thought it was super exciting. It's just one of those things when you get it in your blood and it's something you want to do. It's just all you think about. You just love it. It's a passion. And that's what really got started with me. Our home was, at least my father's home, when I was in high school, someone tried to burglarize it, and I sat there getting down on the ground looking for shoe marks and so on, and found a bunch of stuff. All out. Just got there, and that really kick-started for me.
Yeah, and you never told me that, or I guess we never talked about that, right? You watching them work. All right, so Lonnie J, I was a bad kid, but let's say involvement with law enforcement, getting into trouble with law. I did a lot of bad shit, but they never caught me, if you will. And so I say bad stuff. I'm talking about teenage stuff, just crazy stuff. I didn't kill anybody or rape anybody or anything like that, but I definitely was, hell bent on raising hell all the time. But so, I think I only had personal interaction with the cops a couple times, but I was never arrested. And I've always wanted to be a cop. That's all I ever wanted to do. And it's the greatest show on earth. And if you have a job you love, you never have to go to work. And I say this all the time, but there's so many mornings when I would get in and I would be so pumped up. I would feel like I should have to pay them for the privilege of working there. It was that much fun. And I'm a big hunter, and it's like the hunting of man, right? And just loved it. It was great stuff. And then I love the brotherhood and everything that goes with it. Of course, I love the criminal mind. It fascinates me and still fascinates me to this day. So, all right, Jim. So,
really good question. I did like that question. That was a good one.
Look, Lonnie J has another one. All right. So Lonnie J says, have either of you been involved with cases involving serial killers. And I can tell you, yes, whether directly or indirectly, the Derek Todd Lee, Sean Vincent Gillis, and of course, I'm going to go out on the limb and say Mark Lewis, Chris Allen David Hunt, who Jim was just talking about in the Trust No One episode. Now, y'all, a serial killer is a person who kills more than two people at separate times. And I mean, there's some other criteria involved. But just like Derek Todd or Sean Vincent, when these women are being killed, you get updates on things. Or even, you know what, Gerald Bordelon could have been, right? Or may have still been, and he may have had more bodies on him. We know he was a serial rapist, but you get involved with him one way or another, whether you're searching for a missing victim or you're on the BOLO or be on the lookout for a certain type of vehicle like they did with Jim. I know you remember this with Derek Todd Lee. They had us looking for a white guy in a white truck. And I mean, that was one time that an FBI profile was so wrong. But of course, traditionally, there are very few African-American serial killers, which Derek Todd Lee was. So you go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, I would say Derek Todd Lee. I didn't specifically work on the case. I just remember what we were looking for. And then Chris Allen Hunt, that would be one right there. I know that there's more bodies out there somewhere that he's disposed of that just we have no clue where they are. And we just know it. I mean, he doesn't know what body he placed where and with who. I mean, that's definitely one of them, in my opinion, anyway.
I agree. Yeah, definitely agree with that. It's just a lot of them. I think even we may have worked on serial killer cases that we don't even know about, right? Missing, whether you're taking a report from missing person or whatever it may be, but certainly there's different levels of serial killers and interactions, and we've had our fair share. So, and then Jim, we have Cassie Wallace from Bowling Green, Kentucky. She is a Dream Team member and a sweetheart. And she just wants to give a shout out to her friend, Kimberlia Stowers. She says, "Hey, Kimberlia Stowers, you're awesome." And Kimberlia replies, "Oh, that is so sweet. Call it in." But anyway, they're both Dream Team members, and we love them to death. And you got to meet them, Jim, through the closed group stuff and all that. But
yeah, they both have been very, very nice, and I've interacted with both of them. And good morning to both of you. And I look forward to talking with you more. Yeah,
and we'll all get face to face, hopefully before CrimeCon next year, but definitely there. So, and that's in your home.
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Bowling Green, that's the home of the Corvette, right? So okay, so let's see. I'm going to Elizabeth P. middle initial, last name Chalker, Chalker, ask, what are your thoughts on the Dan Markle murder case? Why can't they arrest the in-laws? Well, Elizabeth, I'm not aware of that case. And I don't know if Jim is or not.
I'm not, but Elizabeth, I do know you, so good morning. And I will actually look into this, and Woody and I can talk about that maybe on a next week's episode or another episode. I'm not familiar with the case.
Okay, so Elizabeth, we're gonna.
It was unscripted. I couldn't prepare for it, so.
I told you it's unscripted and raw. The lip smacks and all today, y'all. But we're trying to get this out for y'all. I think it's important that we release on time every Friday, and we haven't missed one yet. Knock on wood. So hopefully you'll be hearing this by 7 p.m. this evening, edited or not. But Elizabeth, we will absolutely table your question for the next Hotline episode, and I'm going to look into it. I do like to look into cases that I've never heard of, but the other fault or my fault or my problem is I don't really watch the news and stuff on murder cases like that anymore, right? Somebody has to bring it up to me, like the Jessica Chambers case. I'd never heard of that, and the fans wanted to hear about it, and that's why I did the Hotline episode on her. But we'll check it out, right, Jim?
Absolutely will. Elizabeth's wonderful. You'll enjoy chatting with her if you ever get that opportunity, Liddy.
Cool. We'll do that. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your question. Now we have Delinda, spelled with a D, not Belinda, Delinda. Middle name Andrews. Last name is Luinge. How do you think you say that, Jim? Luinge.
Luinge.
Lungy. Delinda, we're going to call you Delinda. And thank you for taking the time to submit a question, right? So Delinda asks, why should anyone ever submit to a polygraph? I've heard time and time again of innocent people failing. It's not admissible in court either way. I've never heard of anyone advocate for taking one other than law enforcement. What is your take? Okay.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first. You go first.
Professional in this department.
Hey, let me tell you this, Jim. We have Aaron Ashwood followed that up with, great question for a polygraph expert. I'd love to know too. So you start with it.
Okay. So you're right. They're not necessarily admissible in court, but they are very good at fact finding. Very, very good at fact finding, because it does use some of the biometrics, your blood pressure, your heart rate, different types of things like that. So it's amazing that when you put somebody on a polygraph machine, the amount of information they give you, whether the machine is running or not. So yeah, you're right. It may not be admissible in court. Why would anybody submit to it? But they do, because, like I said, it's very much a fact-finding ordeal, and it's used a lot of times for pre-employment too. Said you put somebody on the box, they're going to start talking.
All right,
and that's why it's used so much.
Right.
And it can find the truth. And that is for certain. I do believe in that.
Yeah. Well,
Woody, I'll let you run with it with your expertise from here, because this is definitely your lane.
Right. And absolutely agree with you. It is an excellent investigative tool. And Delinda, I still have my private business, Overton Polygraph Consulting, and I do a lot of the private testing, but about 40% relationships where people call in about their cheating spouses, etc. And the other 60%, I would say, is defense work. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people who get accused of things that they did not do. And so the defense attorneys will come to me and say, hey, look, first of all, I need to know for myself if this guy did it or didn't do it, or this lady. And, will you run them for me? And if they pass, Delinda, then what they get when my report is issued, they have something that their attorney can take to the courts, even if it's not admissible, which that's not totally true either. It is admissible in court as long as both sides agree to the expert testimony. But the problem is getting both sides to agree, because you're always going to have one person who doesn't want it in. But the defense attorney can take it to the court and say, stand up in an open court and say, for your honor, my client passed a polygraph with Woody Overton. And even if it's not admissible, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a judge that I've had some type of case in front of over the years. I'm talking about criminal cases, and they get to plant that seed of doubt in the judge's mind. But a lot of times they just take it straight to the district attorney, and the DA's like, they know I'm not going to lie for them. And they know my reputation, and a lot of times it helps to get their charges dismissed. So that's one reason to take it. Now, if you come to me as the police and you want me to take a polygraph and I'm guilty, I'm not taking that shit. I promise you, they're going to use it as an investigative, fact-finding mission, if you will. I mean, I tell every examinee that I have, if you could take the test and pass it, take it. If you can't pass it, then don't take it with me, because you're not going to cheat me and you're not going to beat me. So, but it is used a lot in the private sector, and as far as law enforcement, it's a hell of an investigative tool. And I've done probably over 1,000 of the pre-employment tests Jim's talking about. And I've had cops that have been on the jobs for years tell me shit you would never imagine. And one admitted to rape. I've had cops admit to manufacturing of meth, hauling pounds of weeds in a car, just all kinds of crazy shit. So you never know what effect the polygraph is going to have, but I can tell you something, it will absolutely break you down when done correctly. It's a hell of a process.
It is, and I'm going to just follow up on a couple of different things. You brought up a very good point. Yes, it is a very good law enforcement tool. Yes, it's obviously work a lot in the favor of the state. However, it is good for exculpatory evidence as well, which helps the defendant out. Because of, having that polygraph exam that says that you passed it, coming from a law enforcement polygraph examiner like Woody, it kind of speaks volumes for the defendant as well. So it can help get somebody off of some charges or rule them out as a suspect or whatever. But in other cases, like I do remember, I was working some burglary cases a while back, and we put somebody on the polygraph. Woody went ahead and polygraphed them for me, and that was the greatest thing about having your partner and detective as a polygraph examiner, is that I could just make a phone call and I can get you to take care of me for it. But put that person on the box, and we ended up solving like a handful of other crimes that we didn't even know about, because it was just spitting the information out, which was great for us. So, I mean, it does have its advantages.
Yeah, and certainly, there's one murder case, and we'll tell you all about it in the future, but this guy wasn't even on a radar. The cops had arrested the wrong person off of information from the hood, and one of the CIs called in and said, hey, you need to talk to this cat. He's been crying since the thing happened and everything else, and I brought him in and talked to him, and I asked him to submit the polygraph, and he took it, and shit, 2 minutes after the test, and I told him he failed it, he confessed. And so we got the wrong guy out of prison that time and got the right one in. So there's a lot of interesting cases on it, and a lot of different variables that go into it. But going back to the defense cases, I do more sex allegations, unfortunately, more sex allegation tests than all the rest of them combined. And usually it's a bad divorce or custody battle and stuff like that. And people do shitty things to each other, right? And it's for one parent to accuse the other parent of molesting their child just so they don't have to share them on the weekends, et cetera, and it'll cause a police investigation, stuff like that. Now, you think about that parent, it's gone both ways. I've had females and males. You think about being accused out of the blue and you haven't done it. So I think, the polygraph is certainly one way to help clear those people. But thank you, Delinda and Aaron, for the question. We appreciate it.
Yeah, great question.
Okay, so all right, we have I can't play these, y'all, on voice because I'm sitting in a hotel room in Birmingham, Alabama, recording remotely with Jim, right? And so normally I could play some of these voice messages into the speaker so you could hear it, but this is from Ryan Horan, who we call the promo man, and he is a huge part of the dream team. And
morning, Ryan.
yeah, and he's just is awesome at promoting the show, and he runs contests for us and gives away things, everything else. Just the man has fire in his belly for real life, real crime. So Ryan says, "Hey Woody, hey Jim, this is Ryan from North Carolina, aka the promo man. A little late calling in today. I hope I get this in time. But the only thing I can really think of to ask both of you is, what is the most bizarre thing that either one of you have dealt with while you were patrol officers? What's the craziest thing you saw that you just could not believe or get over that sticks to you with you to this day?" And I'm laughing already because I have shit running through my mind. He says, "I'm really curious to hear what y'all have to say. You guys are killing it. You don't want a great job. Real life, real crime. That podcast out there. Okay, guys, it's Pro Man. Peace and love. I'm out." Jim.
Wow.
I don't even know where to start.
Uniform patrol. See, that makes it a little bit more interesting, because usually when it gets that interesting, we have to pass it off to the detective division.
Right.
But, golly, I have just encountered so many things, whether uniform patrol or not, but just on cases that I assisted on. Wow.
And see, I told y'all this is unscripted, and there's like a million things running through my head. But I had actually read this question last night, and I started thinking about it. And I said, you know what? I'm not even going to try to think about it because it's just too much. I will wait and see what Jim says.
The crazy thing is about law enforcement is you come across one thing, and it's just out of this world crazy, and you're like, nobody can top this. And it's almost like that saying, "Hold my beer,"
Right.
And then somebody does it. And that's just the craziest thing about law enforcement. Every day you come into work, you don't know what you're going to encounter or what you're going to see.
The one thing you do know is it's not going to be the same thing you saw the day before.
No, definitely not.
It's not like riding the desk and punching a clock and hating your life.
So one that I will touch on here, and I'll because I still was a part of Uniform Patrol. I was assisting narcotics division with some assignments that were going on at the time frame. Won't get into specifics on that. So since I was still technically Uniform Patrol, but kind of on a side assignment, we did a search warrant. Somebody was creating a meth lab and was stupid enough to actually video record the meth lab. And the reason they did that is so they could distribute it to other people on how to make a meth lab. So, of course, that was put into the search warrant. After we hit it with SWAT and collected the evidence, we did collect the VHS tapes. And while going through the VHS tapes looking for the meth lab, and I think Woody knows where this is going.
I know exactly where it's going.
While we were looking through the videos, we ended up finding the meth lab. Of course, you got to see if there's other ones. And there's some odd things. And all of a sudden, the VHS tape turns into this homemade movie, which had not only
warning. Yeah. Turn this shit off now if you're gonna get offended. Go ahead, Joe.
All right. So there was a husband and wife, and they were the suspects of it because they were the ones who owned that residence. And I'm looking at this video, and you thought you just found a home movie is what it appeared to, except that there was another female in there, which was this couple's friends. And the two wives were dressed up in full lingerie, and in come a Dalmatian dog and another large dog.
Big dogs.
And the dogs had those oven mitts on their paws, and it was taped onto their paws.
Oh my God.
And then the ladies would start performing oral sex, so to speak, on the dog, and then the husbands would actually insert the dogs into the spouses.
Oh God.
And literally was thrown up in my mouth, and they had an entire tape full of this. So not only did they get their original charges, but then it came a whole slew of charges right after that.
Bestiality.
The sound effect in the courtroom when that was brought up.
Holy shit. Let me tell you something. And this might be the way to segue into the fetish questions that we had. But okay, sexual deviant. And now deviant is, sounds like such a hard, horrible word or whatever, but it's not actually that bad. A deviant just means, a like or something that most normal people wouldn't like, right? Well, then you throw sexual in and, you have everything from shoe fetishes or foot fetishes to bestiality and everything in between, right? But for meth heads, now I remember when we did the first meth bust in Livingston Parish, and Jim, I think it was right before you got there, and we did John T. Wilkerson and I did the first meth lab bust, and then we were so happy to start working meth because we had been chasing crackheads for years, the same crackheads and on the same streets. But we had no idea how bad meth was going to get. So we go to, I went to school in Mississippi, the meth lab school. And this is after we'd done a bunch of meth labs. And the one thing they teach you, or the instructor said, is, I promise you'll always find two types of things every time that you do a meth lab. One is a firearm, and two is some type of pornography, because it's a big part of, sex is a huge part of meth. It stimulates that part of the brain, right? So when we did that, and we were sitting in that back detective's office, I'll never forget as long as I live, and playing a tape, and I was like, holy shit. And when the dogs came in the room, and I think you're right, it was like oven mitts on one of them, but I believe the other one had, like, I don't want to call it crocheted or whatever, hand knitted, personalized mitts and on it, and obvious, for the obvious reason, these are big dogs. I mean, what's that dog's name? Marvin Luke or whatever. I don't know. In the cartoons, I'm talking about big dogs, and it was some of the sickest shit you ever see. Now we've seen sicker, but for them to do the sex acts on the dog, oral sex acts on the dog to get them, and I told you I'll turn the shit off and get them erect, and then the husbands helped put the dogs on these women's back and insert them inside their penises inside the women. Yeah, it just doesn't get much more fucked up than that. And the purpose,
it was pretty disgusting.
The purpose, the mitts were to keep the dogs from scratching the ladies' backs. That's what the purpose of the mitts were. And let me tell you something. These were not unattractive people. I mean, it's not. I don't fuck it. I don't get it. They were good looking couples and all that stuff. But I guess it's all like I always say, it takes all kinds to make the world go around, right? I don't know.
The world is full of sick and twisted people. Let me tell you, they had. I'll never forget in court, and this is the last part I'll leave on this, but when we were in court for that, things were being brought up like a discovery part of it, and when the state attorney's office asked about that specifically, I'm going to tell you, the whole entire courtroom just did that.
Yeah.
And the look on their faces were like, oh gosh, they got that tape. And it's not like you could deny that it's them.
Right.
I mean, literally, even the husbands would rotate who's holding the camera,
I know,
so they can go ahead and assist their wife with
God.
the dog. So their faces are on there. It's in plain view. We're not talking a 5-minute clip. I'm talking
it's
hours of this,
yeah.
with multiple sessions with these dogs.
Yes, and it was multiple tapes. So it was on more than one occasion. I mean, of course, if you take the time to make personalized mitts for your Great Dane, so it doesn't scratch up your wife's back, you've put some thought into it. Back to the sexual.
I hope that answered your question, Ryan.
Yeah, back to the sexual deviant. I think I failed to say what I wanted to say, but the FBI, the profile on a sexual deviant shows almost as important for the sexual deviant to commit the act is that they record it in some type of way. So anytime you work these really freaky sex cases, 9 times out of 10, there's some type of audio or video recording, and they use that to go back to and masturbate to later on until they can have their next session, right? So,
Woody, I'm going to make one point, if I may, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear a lot of times about when we talk about, and I know there's going to be future episodes, and Woody and I can get all into this, but when it comes to sexual deviant behavior, pedophiles, things like that, I hear a lot of times people be like, well, why don't you just, you know, cut their penis off or whatever the case might be. But what people are failing to realize, it's not the physical stimulation that gets them, it's the mental.
99.
That's why they record it, because they can recall it and they can see it, and it's the whole mental aspect of it that gets them going.
That's right. It's you know, sex is 99% mental, and for these freaks or deviants, if you will, and so, you know, recording the act and everything and then doing the act, but it's still mental. And I have a case on an 82-year-old man who was a former priest who I got a confession out of, and we'll talk about it another day. But he's 82 and can barely get around. And the reason I found out about him was because he had just applied to work, to be cleared through law enforcement to work with kids again. And he's 82 years old. So, I mean, you can cut the balls off. It's not going to stop the mental part of it. But okay, so let's roll into, I'm telling you, and heed my warning. I'm going to tell you this last one, and we're going to wrap it up. This is serious. Turn it off. It's kind of funny though. It really is, but turn it off. And if you're going to get offended, turn this shit off now. Okay. So, Brian, I'm going to answer your question, cause it came to me. When we were in the police academy at LSU, Louisiana State University, go Tigers, they taught us a class on sexual deviance, and they had a tape from the FBI. It was kind of like a compilation, if you will, of different deviant people. And God, man, there's some shit on there you just wouldn't believe. But I'm going to tell you one that really sticks out in my mind. Somewhere, I don't remember. I mean, it's been well over 20 years, but somewhere in some rural part of America, there was a trooper that did a traffic stop in a real rural area. You know where I'm going with this. And the guy was in. I don't think
there's anyone that's been to this law enforcement academy that don't know where you're going with it, right when you said that.
Yeah. So, y'all, this is just real life, real crime. So the trooper pulls over this truck. It's like a 1980 something single cab Chevrolet truck. And as he's approaching the truck, this was before they had cameras, y'all, dash cameras. As he's approaching the truck, or anytime you approach a vehicle on a traffic stop like that from the rear, they have what you call a kill zone. And if it's a car, as you're walking up to the car, as you're passing the trunk, you want to push your hand down on the trunk to make sure there's nobody waiting in the trunk to jump out and ambush you, which unfortunately, why did they know to do that? Because it's happened. Cops have got killed like that. So if it's a truck, yeah, that's right. And then that's right. In case they kill you and then they can catch the car later. That's actually happened too. But, if it's a truck, as you're walking up, you certainly are going to scan your eye. You're going to look in the back of the truck and make sure nobody's hiding or there's no dead bodies or whatever. Well, trooper looks in the back of the truck as he's walking up, and there's a deer, and there's a dead deer in the back of the truck. Okay, it's nighttime. Maybe this dude just shot the deer or whatever. Not that big of an issue, except for the trooper saw something a little bit strange about the deer. And upon closer examination, he saw that the deer had panties and a bra on. Can't make that shit up, right? So he approaches the driver, starts to talk to him, and he's like, sir, you aware that you have a deer in the back of your truck? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, are you aware that the deer is wearing female underwear? And he's like, yeah. And so long and short of it is, they get the guy out, and then now he's a sexual deviant. He's into bestiality big time. And he admits about the deer. He had actually found the deer on the side of the road. He didn't kill it himself. And he had sexual intercourse with the deer, but that's not the bad part. He dressed it up and did all that, and he was riding it around. The only reason he didn't put it in the front seat, like it was his Saturday night date going to a movie, is because it wouldn't fit. But so upon further examination of the vehicle, now remember, I told you the sexual deviant, almost as important as committing the act is the fact of recording the act. And this dude's got a big ass box of, what was it? It's not VHS. What the one you had to use the adapter to play it.
Like the little 8mm.
That's what 8mm. Yeah.
One of those VHS.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So he's got a huge box of them in the front seat of this truck, and this is it. Turn it off. They take it back and they start playing it. Now they actually played this for us, and I think they do it as much for shock value as just to teach people that are young cops that there are all kinds of people out there, right? And you never know what you're going to encounter. So they turn on the tape. It's funny, but it's not, y'all. I mean, I know Jim certainly doesn't advocate animal abuse or anything like that, but it is what it is. They turn on the tape, and what comes into view is this guy's lap, and he's holding a chicken. And he's having intercourse with the chicken. Okay. I first of all, I never even knew that was possible. I guess I never thought about it. But he's videotaping himself with one hand, and he's holding the chicken. I'm sorry.
You want me to pick it up from here?
You go ahead, Jim.
So he has the chicken in his lap, what he's using to open up the chicken.
Wait. Hold on one second, but before you tell that part, because that's I was crying on it. Okay, so I'll be straight. The camera focuses in. He's got this chicken in his lap. He has his erect penis out, and he is having sexual intercourse with this chicken. Now, he's moving the chicken. I'm told you, turn this shit off. He's moving the chicken back and forth with his hand onto his penis. All right. And, you get right, when the chicken didn't move enough, or right before he had his orgasm, tell him what he did, Jim.
So he would take this, cigarette lighter.
Remember, it's the old trucks, the kind that had cigarette lighters where you push the button in and it pops back out when it's hot.
And what he would do is he would take that, and then he would put that into the chicken briefly, and then pull it back out, and then he would insert himself back into the chicken. And it's almost like, I don't know if that opened it up.
I know what it did, and it's because what it did when it burned the chicken went crazy, flopping, and that's what helped him finish his orgasm. As sick as that is, okay, so the video showing he's going to town on this chicken, and the chicken's not, I mean, you really didn't know if the chicken was alive or dead until he popped that cigarette lighter out and he burned the chicken with it, and then the chicken started and flapping and stuff, and he finished, right? And so there, Ryan Horan, and to all you fetish people, there's one for you. I don't think I ate chicken for like a long time after that.
No.
I mean, go ahead.
He even, he had like one of those tripod cameras. So he put the camera on one of those tripods, so it was stationary, so he can record. And he would do this inside the cabin of his truck, or on the back of the truck, or sometimes just in the middle of a field. Like, there was numerous times he was doing this, and would either hold the camera or he would use a tripod where his full body, face, everything is inside there as he's, doing disgusting acts to chickens and other animals.
I forgot about that. I was just remembering the one in the truck, but you're right. I'm sorry, I hit my microphone. He did, the tripod so he could have, and when they questioned about it, he did it so he could have more of his body in the picture of the camera with the animal that he was, committing bestiality with. And y'all, I know I'm gonna catch some shit for laughing, but I'm sorry. It is what it is.
Well, the thing is, a lot of times, when you see so many things out there, sometimes laughter can be the best medicine, and it's not to be disrespectful. It's not to, we absolutely 100,000% do not advocate anything being done to animals or period. But sometimes we laugh about some of these things, and it's just kind of our way of coping with it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty disturbing image if you think about it. And, we had to learn about it and watch it, and it kind of desensitizes you a little bit, but it also lets you know that the world is full of strange and crazy things, and in this line of work, you're going to experience it whether you like it or not. I never anticipated, looking at that video after the search warrant and finding the bestiality with the dogs. I mean, you're going to come across these things, and you come across them in the strangest of ways.
Yeah.
So, we may laugh a little bit. It's more or less of how we kind of deal with some of the stressful situations. You may take note of investigators in the future when you're watching things on the news, or you're researching and it looks like they could be laughing. It doesn't mean they're laughing like it's a laughing matter. It's just their way of coping with it.
That's right. And it's better than eating your pistol, right? And, or, being an alcoholic or whatever. And you're right. And the laughter sometimes is the best medicine. And what the hell else are you going to do? I mean, you can't cry about it. But I mean, y'all asked the question. I told you didn't want to hear it, and you insisted, and there's your answer. And y'all, that's nothing that we could go on for days, and we will at some point, about more stories like that. I mean, you wouldn't believe the shit that people do in the fetish world, in the sexual deviant world. Crazy stuff that, I mean, if you know about it, then maybe you know too much about it, but I'll leave it at that. So, Jim, we're hitting the hour mark, man. And so we'll shut down this, real life, real crime hotline episode. Do you have anything you want to say, brother?
No, thank you very much for the questions. They were very good questions. I know we got a due out, so to speak, for Elizabeth. I got you. But the questions were great. I thank you guys very much, and thank you for all your love and support. We really appreciate it. Yeah,
I really do, y'all. And I'm sure I probably missed somebody's questions or whatever, especially on getting to play the audio. But we'll hopefully next time I'll be home and we can have that done correctly. But that being said, we love and appreciate each and every one of you. And just thank you so much for your support. It's amazing. We love all of y'all. And of course, patron members, I got to give you a shout out because your support and your pledge really does help us offset some of the costs of the show and everything. And it means a lot. But every fan, we love each of you equally. And we'll ask that you go to iTunes and leave us a review. And I don't care if it's a 1-star or 5-star or whatever. And y'all, I didn't ask for these reviews in like the first season or anything because I didn't understand how important they are. But evidently there's algorithms that are used. And when people go to look for our show, the more reviews that we have on iTunes, the easier it is to find and the higher the show gets ranked, et cetera, like that. And let me tell you something. I have like on our page that we use, the company that we use to broadcast the show, they have all these different podcast platforms that people are downloading us from. So I can see who's downloading from what, and iTunes is like way down on the list, but Apple Podcasts is by far number one, and by like thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads over everybody else. I think Stitcher is in, some of those are second and third or whatever. But if you would just take the time to go leave us a review, and you want to continue to see us and help us grow, and please just leave us a review.
Absolutely. And what do you know? I know there's a lot of, we give a shout out to a lot of the current law enforcement that listen from the local, state, and federal level, but all across the world. We really do appreciate everything that you guys do to keep the community safe and continue to do. So we just want to thank you, because we know it's some difficult times that you guys are facing every day out there. We lived it. You guys are currently doing it, and we just want to thank you for being the patriots that you are and keeping us all safe. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Definitely a shout out to all law enforcement and first responders, but double that on our military. And y'all, Jim was a captain in 82nd Airborne, right, Jim?
Yep.
And is a decorated war hero. We don't have to talk about that, but you're listening to the voice of an American hero. And if it wasn't for our military and our police, you couldn't live as free as you do. And I don't know how the hell the guys on the street do it nowadays with the culture and the way that people view police and law enforcement in general. And let me tell y'all something. There are no more bad cops on the street today than there were 20 years ago. The only difference is everybody has a camera, and the culture and the way people feel about police now, because everything's recorded and these bad guys are getting caught, and sometimes they're not bad or whatever, but the culture against law enforcement is just unbelievable. I wouldn't do it. And look, they're not getting rich, y'all. And they put their lives on the line every day. So really appreciate all y'all and love you and watch you six. And if you're a bad cop and you're selling dope or doing bad shoots and dropping guns on people and stuff like that, then we don't give a fuck about you anyway, right? I mean, but all the good cops out there, and we appreciate you, and thank you for your service. Okay, so I want to tell you all about something real quick, and this is the first time I've done this, and this lady reached out to me about her son, Gage, who is autistic, and she's trying to get him in, or she has him in this program, and it's super, super expensive. And I'm not going to say a lot about it. Y'all can, if you want to, you can go look it up. But his name, is Gage Rivers, and he is, I shouldn't read this whole thing, but he's 4 years old now, and evidently he started out as a regular child, and he could dress himself and speak and everything, and then they found out that he was regressing, and now, I mean, it's just a sad story, y'all. And so if you would, I'm going to put it in today's show notes about Gage and their mama. And it's a GoFundMe page, and they are legitimate. I know them. The mom lives in Morganza, Louisiana now, and has to drive Gage every day to Baton Rouge, which is like a long ways, an hour and a half one way without traffic. And they're paying the fees and everything for this school. But anyway, it's under Annihilate Autism and Slay ABA, the GoFundMe page. And we'll put it in the show notes. And if you read it, and if you can do something, or if you can just throw up a prayer for them or whatever, I'd appreciate it. It is pretty touching to me. So I just want to take a second to do that. And I've never done it before, but this lady reached out, and I think it's important. Anyway, Jim.
Yeah, no, I agree. If there's something you can do, it would be very much appreciated. Autism is such a big epidemic. My oldest son is high functioning. It's something I've been dealing with for many years. So, Gage, we will support you and your mom. You've got some great parents and family that are doing everything they can. Your mom's doing everything she can to help you, and I just think that's amazing. So,
yeah,
I haven't had a chance to talk to you, to Gage's mom or anything like that, but you're doing one heck of a good thing for your son, and and that you love your son more than anything in this world.
That's and basically it's Jenny is the mom, and she tells about how hard it is for her to even ask. I mean, they're proud people, etc. And look, they work. I mean, but they have other kids, and I mean, they have good jobs. But this tuition is like $10,000 or something, but she just wants to give her child the best chance that she can, and so it's help Gage annihilate autism and slay ABA, and it's on GoFundMe. It'll be in the show notes. He's a beautiful little boy, and it kind of tugged at my heartstrings. So if y'all check it out, and good luck to you, Jenny. All right, and thanks for being a friend of Real Life, Real Crime. One more thing I want to talk about, and this is pretty much just me plugging myself here, Jim. Y'all say you like the voice. Long before Jim was on the show, I got a lot of comments about people liking my voice, and et cetera, et cetera. And I've actually written 2 books. I've published 4 under Overton Publishing, but I wrote 2 myself. And one of them that I wrote and published in 2014. Now, listen, first of all, let me preface that I don't care. I'm not preaching, and I don't care what religion you are or aren't or whatever. It doesn't make any difference to me. I believe people should be judged on their character, et cetera. But this is my story of what actually happened to me in 2009 when I died on the table. But I'm going to promote it here on Real Life, Real Crime. I went back and narrated the book, and it just got released on Audible last week. And I'm going to tell you that the book is not as much about religion as it is about the story of what happened to me, the true story. But it has a lot of cop stuff in there. So, I mean, I talk about 2 different homicide investigations, a death scene investigation. I talk about some uniform patrol stuff, and in general about the brotherhood, and sisterhood and law enforcement and everything. But it really is just my story about just the horrible deal that I went through, and how we came out on the other side, that my wife and I went through, and how we came out on the other side. So, and it was originally published in 2014, and it's still available on Kindle and Amazon and all that. But I did a audio version for the people who were asking me to do it. So it got released last week. And the name of the book is Jesus Held Me, Held Me, by Woody Overton. Now check this out. It'll be in the show notes. If you've never listened to an audiobook before, they have it set up through Audible where you register and you can get the book for free. Well, it doesn't cost anything. And so, it's like a trial membership deal. You get the book for free. So y'all check it out in the notes. If you do get the book, do me a favor and leave me a review, and I would appreciate it. And I'll tell y'all this, the voice thing. I mean, my wife always told me about it and, how she loved it, et cetera. But I've actually signed a contract, Jim. I don't even think I've told you this, with another well-known author who has out over 29 books. And I've started to record or narrate one of her books in a four-part series. And so that will be out. And by the contract, I have to have it finished by October 1. We're well into it. And so hopefully it'll be out sometime next month. So, and again, we'll let you know when it happens. But Jesus Held Me, you can get it on Amazon or whatever. But if you go to Audible and you've never used Audible before, it is free. So check it out and leave me a review. And y'all wanted to hear more from me, and there it is. It's a couple hours worth. So,
hey, congratulations to you and all that, Woody. The voice. It's like me hear your voice on like an Unsolved Mysteries narrator type of thing.
Yeah, it's something like that, right? Hey, but you know what? Your voice is deeper than mine. But when my wife had set us up, when we recorded in Orlando, they have these, I don't know, all these switch thingies on the board, and you have to do them like deep voice, etc. And hell, I hadn't seen you in 10 years, and your voice is deeper than mine. So, but I appreciate you being on, and Jim, and we're having a lot of fun with it. I know. First of all, it brought us back together, talking every day and everything. But I appreciate you being on. It's been awesome. And, that's it.
Thank you very much for having me. I really having a great time. This is it's a lot of fun, but I really enjoy doing this.
Hey, y'all, we're doing some really good stuff. We're growing. We're in 120 something countries, and the numbers are growing across every episode, every day. The podcast awards, y'all, the voting closed yesterday or the day before yesterday, the last day of July. So hopefully we'll make the finals. Who knows? But I mean, we're up against the biggest shows in the world. But so we'll see. But we appreciate and love each and every one of y'all. Thank you for what you're doing. Please continue to like and share us and watch us grow. And we will strive to do better and bring you better content, better editing, and anything else we can. And if y'all have any complaints, let me know. If you have any likes, let us know, and whatever. So that's it, Jim. Thanks again, bro. And
thank you.
And y'all, I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And you know what? I've been remiss, Jim. I'm sorry, but I've been remiss on not doing our sphincter scale or whatever. But so we'll get back on that next week, rating the bad guys. So, but for y'all, until next time or ever, don't let us catch you down on Murder Bayou. Thanks. Peace. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during questioning. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. You understand your rights?